Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm looking at the 2024 US House elections and some recent House races that have played a very important role in the Republicans currently having a very narrow control over the US House of Representatives. And I'm talking about some of these races today and what importance they are for 2026, as they're likely going to be very top targets by both potential parties for those elections. So right now, as of April 2nd, 2025, the Republicans currently have a majority in the U.S. House of Representatives with 220 seats. Democrats currently have 213 seats. With two House seats being vacant at this time, the Republicans have a majority in the U.S. House by approximately 2 seats. As in the U.S. House of Representatives, when it's totally full, there's 535 members of the U.S. House. So just quick math here, 435 divided by 2 is 217.5, which would mean to have a majority of House seats, you would need at least 218 seats, which the Republicans do currently have. For the purpose of today's video, I'm looking at one state's House races and some that are going to be very potentially very close and important for 2026 and why they may control which party wins the House in 2026. And I'm going to look at the state of Pennsylvania today. In 2022, we saw a lot of really close races in Pennsylvania House races, especially in Pennsylvania 8, where Democrat Matt Cartwright won by 51.22% to his Republican opponent's 48.78%, a 2.4% win. And Pennsylvania 7, where Democrat Susan Wild won by 2 points, 50.98%, to the Republicans' 49.02%. And then in 2024, both of these House races shifted. The Republican Bresnahan was able to defeat Cartwright by 1.6%, 50.81% to 49.19%. And then we have PA 7, where the Republican McKenzie was able to defeat the Democrat Wild by 1 point, 50.05% to 49.50%. Two very close races that did end up being Republican flips from 2022 to 2024. That was very close. We also had a very close race in Pennsylvania 10, where Republican Scott Perry won by 1.3% over his Democratic opponent in what ended up being a very close race. We also had a few races in Pennsylvania that were very close in past elections, but were likely wins in this one. For instance, you can go back to 2018, where Connor Lamb won PA 17, but then it got redistricted a little bit, but PA 17 still went for Connor Lamb by 2.3% over Republican Sean Parnell. Now in PA 17 in 2022, voted for the Democrat by 6.8% and by the Democrat by 7.8%. A likely Democratic win, but still one that showed some signs of being competitive in 2024. PA 6 was a 12.4% win for the Democrat in 2024, after 2022 where it was over 15 points, and 2020 where it was 12-point win as well. In Republican, PA 1, Fitzpatrick won PA 1 by 12.8%. In 2022, it was won by 9.7. 2020 was won by 13.1. So PA 1, PA 6, PA 17, and PA 12, I don't really expect many of these to be very competitive, at least not the main competitive ones, but on a good night, one way or the other, they could potentially get drawn into competitive conversations. So why am I talking about these races, especially PA 8, PA 7, and PA 10? Well, when you look at 2026, because it's actually not that far away, as crazy as that may sound, we are starting to get a little bit of some developments here for how some of these races may develop, including in District 7, where the Democratic former U.S. Representative Susan Wild's already announced she will not be running, but in the Democratic side of things, a Northampton County Executive, Lamont McClure, is already announced, as well as Carol Obando Durstein, a former member of Pennsylvania's Advisory Commission on Latino Affairs. Ryan McKenzie, the incumbent U.S. Representative, is also seen as a potential candidate. And again, that is for PA 7 right here in this area of Pennsylvania. Now we can look at PA 8 as well and see where things are here. Also, it's worth noting PA 7 is listed as a toss-up for 2026 as well. PA 8, the Republican Rob Bresnahan is the incumbent U.S. Representative. In this one, the Democrat Matt Cartwright has publicly expressed interest in running again. So even though this is a lean Republican ranking as of right now, we are looking at a potential rematch for 2026 and what could be a very close election. So that's PA 8, that's PA 7. Now we can look at PA 10, which ended up being very close as well. In this district, the Republican Scott Perry could potentially run again. He already has the endorsement of President Trump and Club for Growth if he decides to run again. On the Democratic side of things, Janelle Stelson, a former WGAL news anchor and nominee for the district in 2024, is publicly expressed interest in running again. The rankings are toss-up and tilt Republican, very, very close in this race as well. So these are three very contentious House races in Pennsylvania. That doesn't even take into account the other races, which all were likely margins that could potentially be competitive, like PA 17, PA 12, PA 6, or PA 1. These are just the ones that were under 5 points in 2024, and still these three House races could be absolutely critical for 2026. Because when I showed you the House rankings right now, the Republicans, you need to have 218 seats to have a majority. The Republicans have 220, which means if those three Republican seats flip to the Democrats, that would bring the Democrats up to 216, Republicans down to 217, with two vacancies. So Republicans would no longer have the majority, and depending on how the vacancies go, which I believe at least one of them, if not both of them, are Democratic vacancies, they would both benefit the Democrats. So the Democrats would actually have the majority in the House by very, very narrowly with those two vacancies filled if the three Pennsylvania House races were to flip. Now, obviously, 2026, we still have a lot of time until that happens and what 2026 may look like, but we're already starting to get some early indicators when you look at the polling for 2026. Right now, the early 2026 congressional vote poll shows Democrats leading by 1.4%. We obviously have a long way to go from now until 2026, so we're going to have to wait and see how that develops, but these very close races in 2024 in PA 8, PA 7, PA 10, two of them were won by Democrats in 2022, and PA 10 seems to be getting less and less Republican for Scott Perry throughout the more elections as we get closer, despite it being very close in 2018. But even as these districts up here have trended to the Republican side, a very good Democratic night in 2026 could drag them back to the Democratic category. So these House races in Pennsylvania are very important to watch for 2026 and could play a very important role in whether the Democrats win back the House in 2026 or if the Republicans can keep their narrow majority and maybe look to expand it. So they're very, very important in that conversation. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like. Please leave a comment below telling me your thoughts about this video. Also, make sure to click subscribe as I post 2 new videos every single day at 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. that you're not going to want to miss. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in a future video.